Hello there, it's the last Friday of February 2019 and I'm in our pear orchard, not the Perry pear orchard. That's a separate matter altogether. This is an orchard where we planted some pears, and I'll just quickly go over the history of that. This area here, which I suppose is about 100 metres by 25 metres, give or take. We'd originally planted this over with bramleys and suntan. They grew very strongly. In fact, they grew so strongly they didn't fruit much, and we found that we had more bramley than we could sell. We weren't actually doing very well with them, so I made a hard decision based on the fact that people wanted pears. Our customers kept saying, hey, can we have some pears? And when we took a few pears along from our espalier trees, again that's another story for another day, they sold very quickly, so we thought, well, let's take a harsh decision and cut these bramleys out and put pears in instead. It was a good decision. These pears did very well, but then we had a few problems with them. First, they were growing too tall. If you look at this, you'll see these trees are basically growing as open centre or delayed open centre bush trees. Now a bush tree, typically the branches break out at about, say, 2 feet. Sorry, I'm mixing metric and imperial. Say 2.5 feet above ground, you've got 3-4 branches coming out here. But here, first branch comes out here, and you've got several others coming up to the top here. So it's what you call a delayed open centre. And in fact, if you look there, there's a big cut, and this was grown as a pyramid. We grew these as pyramids, but they got too tall and difficult to manage. So I made a decision to make a big cut, to cut out the central leader. So I've done the same there, and done the same here, and I've done the same here. So if you've got a pyramid and it's just too tall for you, and you want to convert it to a delayed open centre bush, basically make one big saw cut in the middle. It'll change the shape of the tree, if that's what you want, you know what you're doing. Okay. Something else happened. We had, going back a few years, we had a very long, very wet spell and a huge amount of fungus. A lot of fungal disease developed on these branches. Most of it's gone now, but it really was a problem. I therefore cut these trees back very hard. This is in addition to this big central cut. I cut them back very hard about a year ago, and it's a good move because what we've got is lots of strong, clean, new growth. We haven't sprayed these, by the way, for quite a while. Lots of really strong, clean, new growth. However, it's a bit too thick, so these need some pruning. And I'll just hand the camera to Julia, and I'll prune a couple of these. Now, I put a video up the other day. I'm sorry for the low resolution of it. By the time I realised it was a problem, it was too late to do anything about it. But forget about that. This is a different setting, as I've always said, and I will continue to say. The first thing to do is to understand how the tree grows. Study the tree. The tree is your teacher. The tree will not lie to you. Look at how the tree works in terms of new growth, production of bud, production of fruit. When you understand how the tree grows, then it'll teach you how to prune. So what I've got here, well, let's take this for example, I've got in my hand. You see there's a bundle of thick sticks. There are too many. So I'm taking some of them out completely. A few, probably a lot of these, I'm cutting back to just above the fruit bud. Here we've got two close together, just cutting that to an outward facing fruit bud. Got two crossing here, going to cut that back to a fruit bud. Two titchy little ones there, taking them clean out. Two very close together here. You might think I'd take this one out, but this one, although it's healthier, it's bigger, it's got some of this sort of scab. You see what I mean? Going back a few years, the whole tree was covered with this scab which built up during a very prolonged rainy period. So again, with some of these branches, and it's a little bit arbitrary, I'm cutting these sort of leaders. Some of them I'm cutting clean out, others I'm cutting back to a fruit bud, and some I'm leaving completely alone. But again, you see here, for example, there are two which are crossing. Now I'm going to take one or other of those out, or maybe even both of them. I decided to cut that one down to a fruit bud. This one's crossing and it's growing into the tree. I'm cutting that out completely. It's got in the centre of the tree, taking that out. That's in the centre of the tree. That's in the centre of the tree. That's in the centre of the tree. Taking all those out. Again here, this one's in the centre of the tree. I'm cutting it out to leave a little fruit bud low down. That one's in the centre of the tree, but it's got quite a bit of space. Here again, just above a fruit bud. I'm leaving that just above a fruit bud, just above a fruit bud, just above a fruit bud. Take that out completely. I shall leave a little fruit spur there. This one again, just above a bud, just above a bud, just above a bud. And consider also where the bud is pointing. There's another. Again, cut that just above a bud. This is a little overcrowded, outward facing bud. Running out of time as well. Some of these buds are nearly bursting. Cut that to an outward facing bud, that to an outward facing bud. That's going into the centre of the tree, but actually that's got quite a lot of buds on it, so I think I'm going to spare that one. It'll probably have to come out the following year. Pointing into the middle of the tree. So you see what I've done. I've essentially thinned this out. Again, I've got two more crossing there. Two are crossing, so I'll take them out so that they're no longer crossing. That one is just too close. I'll just do another to get the idea. This one over here. Another good example. When you cut a tree back very hard, you will stimulate a lot of new growth. That's not a bad thing, but you'll probably have too much new growth, so you'll need to thin it out. And again, here we have a branch that's going right into the middle of the tree, so I take that out. That one is in the middle of the tree. I've taken that out just above a fruit bud, and I'll take that out just above a fruit bud as well. There's two just pointing straight in the middle of the tree. Take them both out and put a bud. See, this is not the same style of pruning I was using the other day, because these trees are not the same as the trees I was pruning the other day. I'm not using the saw. I've got nothing to do with the saw here. I used the saw hard on these last year. Somebody will say, why don't you maintain a tree as a pyramid? And yes, that does tend to be the industry standard these days. Putting it to upward facing bud. Upward facing bud. But the pyramid takes a lot of maintenance. The open centre, or the delayed open centre, we'll just prune another. The open centre, or the delayed open centre, is easier to manage. Again, branches right in the middle. Anyone who's watched any number of my pruning videos will know I always repeat the same mantra about allowing air and light into the middle of the tree. So I've always got a tendency to cut out branches which are in the centre of the tree to allow air and light. Now this actually is an example of I'm going to cut this back hard. Again, this is some of this is what the problem was. This is quite nasty sort of fungal sort of scab which we got a lot of during a year when it was just really wet all year. It never dried out. I probably could have controlled the whole situation a bit better if I'd gone heavy on the fungicide, but I think we've more or less given up spraying by then. Here's another example. So there was a lot of this last year, so I cut back very hard. So now we're favouring this new one. In fact, I think I need the saw. I haven't got it on me to probably take this.
There's a saw in the back of my car there.
Yeah, that's right. I've got one in my shed. So that's that, roughly. Okay, so that's about it. Most of these don't need too much more. So perhaps we'll return to these in the summer and consider what might need to be done then, if anything.